Hi, my name is Mark Edwards. This is Mark Corral. We are both history instructors at Spring Arbor University, and we're just here to introduce our Thursday night talk on the history of pandemics. Although it's probably more correct to say that we will be, instead of thinking historically about our current pandemic, probably truer what we're going to be focusing on. There's probably no scarier word to the historian than the word unprecedented. Maybe you've been hearing that word a lot these past few months. This is unprecedented. We've never done anything like this before. This has never happened before. This is unprecedented. When historians hear the word unprecedented, it sets us, it's like the bat signal goes off. We kind of go to work and see, is this thing that we're going through or what we've done, is it truly unprecedented? And most of the time it's not. There is some kind of precedent. So what we want to focus on Thursday night is this unprecedented word. Don't worry, we won't be lecturing Thursday night. We want to move right into a time of discussion. So please do bring your questions with you. We are not experts in the history of pandemics, although we do think historically about the present all the time, and so we will be encouraging you to do so as well. We will try our best to answer any questions you have, but we are hoping that you will bring comments and observations too, that we can just have a good conversation. So again, we will Thursday night we'll be focusing on what's new about the novel coronavirus, and what have we encountered before. Is there a usable past? Can we look to the history of pandemics for guidance or cautionary tales? Or is the past a foreign country and we really are on our own? I'll turn over to Dr. Corral for a minute.
Yeah, I think some of the questions that I'm coming to the table with are really kind of foundational for us as historians. Are historians really equipped to be able to discuss what's going on in the world right now and to be able to put that into the right context? Probably anytime any of the big events of this current summer have come up and you've turned on the news or you're listening to the news and somebody brings out a historian and says, well, how do these events compare to some particular time in the past? And the historian always gamely tries to put up some kind of collaboration, some kind of similars, events and some parallels, but oftentimes those are a stretch for us to do. And so one of the things I also want to really bring to the table on Wednesday is, are historians equipped to ask those kinds of questions? We certainly feel confident as historians that the particular trajectories of the past lead people into certain parameters of what they can choose for the future or how they choose to act. But as historians, we tend to pick our subjects or interests in the past based on kind of where we are in the future. So we do this in kind of reverse of how history is doing it. So a lot of us didn't really even have pandemics on our minds before 2020. And so now we're going back and kind of scrambling through the past in order to try to get it. So as I see it, I think that there's going to be kind of three levels of history that you're going to see coming out. This first level is this kind of case study history. How does this current issue, how does this current event, how does this current pandemic parallel past ones? And we gave you an article, not written by a historian, but somebody who uses historical evidence very well in order to try to give that kind of, how does this compare to that? The second level is going to be, that's going to be coming out, and we'll start to see that in the field of history over the next year or two, are what are those particular aspects of culture and society that are playing a role in people's decisions, how they respond today. As a European historian and as somebody who teaches world history, I'm going to be really fascinated to see how do people's ideas of their politics and society show how there's differences of responding to the coronaviruses in East Asia, in Western Europe, and in the United States. And then I think the third question, and this we historians are probably going to have to wait a couple of years, and it's maybe going to be the biggest question of all facing this pandemic, is what are the effects of the pandemic? And those are only going to be rolling out. We're only very, very basically getting some flavor of what those things might be. But we're going to be watching these, and so we look forward to hearing your thoughts about how that's going to look and what kinds of things you could see as being potential threads for historians to follow in the years to come.
So, briefly, something the past few months have helped me understand is just how common pandemics have been in U.S. history, and how many of them have forgotten. Of course, many of us are aware of the H1N1, the 1918 flu, which killed an estimated 50 million people globally, over 600,000 people in the United States. How many of us remember the 1957 H2N2 pandemic, however, which killed about 1 million people worldwide and about 116,000 people in the United States? Or the 1968 pandemic, which killed about 1 million worldwide and about 100,000 within the United States. The 1968 one is probably worth remembering for a couple of reasons. The H3N2 virus, that's one that's still with us today. People still contract that particular one. It's also worth considering that Woodstock took place in 1968 in the midst of a pandemic. I had no idea. The reason I encountered this 1968 pandemic, somebody wrote an article about Woodstock and saying, look, if Woodstock went on in the midst of a pandemic, why are we shutting down the country now? And of course, maybe you've wondered that yourself, or maybe you have encountered people making that argument. This is unprecedented, quarantining the healthy. We've never done anything like this before. Part of what we need to talk about on Thursday night is not just the history of pandemics, but the history of social distancing. Because we have, in fact, done social distancing in the past. We have done shelter in place in the past. We have done quarantining of the healthy in the past. A lot of the things that we've done in these past few months we have done in the past. And so you have an article on that to consider, and we will be able to maybe do some comparison of contrast of 1918, what went well, what didn't go well, and compare that to our current situation. Final question that I think we'll have to take up is: will we remember this particular pandemic? We've forgotten a lot of the other ones. So, is there any reason to suggest that we will remember this one? And I think that there are. We gave you another article on the racial disparities in the coronavirus, how it's affected Latino and African Americans. To a significant degree, and so we ask you to read that one too. Part of the reason I think we might remember this pandemic is because it has produced, or it is the context in which the largest protest movement in American history, the Black Lives Matter protests, have undertaken. And so it's worth for us to consider the relationship between the pandemic and the Black Lives Matter protests. So we have a lot to talk about Thursday night. Please do your homework. Please come ready to talk with us, and we will look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thanks.
Bye now.